again. And cool. So the first question I have for you all is, what do you love most about the travel planning process? Start with Marilee.
I'm a researcher, so I love to do research and make notes and ask people if they have any suggestions. And I think that's a part of traveling, the excitement that you find in just researching before going on the trip. It's truly exciting, and I love it. So I'm a researcher.
As exciting as the trip itself. Marilyn.
Sorry, did you say me?
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing is, once the decision is made, it's all uphill from there. And I guess the research too, sort of figuring out what I want to do and how I want to do it, if that's a choice. It's always a choice, obviously, but I tend to more fly by the seat of my pants. I do my first night's accommodation, and after that, it's whatever happens. And this trip that I'm going to on Tuesday, woohoo! It's been different because this Camino process here in Canada is different than the pilgrimage that takes place in Europe that's been going for thousands of years. So everybody is learning along the way, and I have to make my bookings for every day that I'll be gone. And so that's an interesting process. That's something new for me, and I'm not sure that I like it, but it's okay. It's happening, and yeah, I couldn't be more thrilled.
You might like it on the other end when you have nothing to do.
Oh yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, that's part of the Camino in Europe, is anticipating, will I get a room where I'm hoping to get a room? And right now that seems to be, excuse me, a little more difficult. If I may just take one extra moment, that meditation really just went, ugh, because I saw myself as a tree, and I saw myself with the sun, and I was on the trail in PEI and just filled with emotion, and I actually started to tear a little bit, but it was phenomenal. So thank you.
Oh, amazing. It's funny because when I choose them, I wait for the one that speaks to me and that I feel that somebody in the group might need. And today, I don't know why, it had nothing to do with the discussion, but I was like, somebody needs this tree meditation. Diana.
Just on the tree thing, it amuses me slightly that so many meditations I think are written by people who live in wooded areas or on the East Coast. My tree, the trunk is actually very small. It's a Palo Verde, and there's no streams around here. Anyway, that's just an aside. My desert tree. I am a huge fan of Google Maps and Street View. And when I'm planning and looking for a place to stay, or an Airbnb, or a VRBO or whatever, I use Street View. And it's almost like I'm getting there, ahead to scout the area. So I plop myself down in front of the, B&B, and I take a look around, and I move up the street. I look at see if there's a cafe at the corner. And then I back out to see how far away I am from, the center of town. And it's so much fun because it's like I'm getting an advanced view of what I'm going to see when I get there. And then, of course, if I don't like it, I make a different choice. But I do that all the time with the places where I'm going to stay. And it even helps me with the driving directions, because usually I find some place that's very remote or up a steep hill or around many corners. So if I've already seen it visually, once I get there, it's like, oh yes, I know this corner. This is where we turn. So that's a favorite trick
It's
of mine.
like your very own virtual tour, which some Airbnb owners actually give, but which is also fun.
Yeah.
You know what is funny on the meditation, my thought as I was reading it is that this had to have been written by a man, because what woman would write, your trunk is so massive you can't even get your arms around it.
Yes. Yes. Oh God.
Diane.
What do I like about the planning? I a little bit like Mary Lee. I'm a researcher. I research everything to death, but I get excited when I research stuff, especially when I find something new. Like I'll research and I can be not bored, but okay, this is normal stuff. But then if I find something that's really exciting, I get excited. It's like I'm there, and it contributes to the dreams that I have. It's just more and more dreams, more excitement about new places. And I discover stuff sometimes, well, most times that I didn't know I could do when I was somewhere. I can find some things that I, before I head somewhere, I have some idea of the kinds of things I want to do when I go somewhere. When I find something different that I hadn't thought of before, that's exciting too. And I do a little bit of what Diana does too. I do Google Earth. I am for places that I want to stay at. I'm it makes that doesn't excite, well, maybe it does excite me a little bit. I'm curious, but it gives me a sense of security, I think, of safety when I'm looking at that kind of stuff. It makes me feel a little more comfortable about where I'm staying and the surrounding areas. So, but more than anything, it's exciting because it helps me dream about what I'm going to do when I go somewhere.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Diane. Jane.
Like many, I do a lot of research. As you know, I'm a librarian. So here's a book. It is called, let's see. Oh, I'm not seeing myself. It is called Joys of Travel. It is by Thomas Swick, who was a Sun Sentinel travel writer for years. And the first chapter is called Anticipation. And I just identify with it so much, from all of the details, from planning to thinking about who's going to go with you, if anything, where you're going, how you're going to pack, the whole anticipation part of the planning until the moment you get on your transportation is just a wonderful and well missed thing. And I was in an airplane looking down at those clouds. The tree transported me to an airplane.
Tree. Christine, what do you love most about the planning process?
I think like everyone, the research and finding those hidden places. And I think once I've got my flight, because it's usually an in and an out from different areas, then it's just a matter of charting everything and connecting the dots and figuring out, 2-3 days here, 2 days here, where am I, and just kind of doing the transportation and getting a good idea of every little thing that's happening everywhere I'm going, but how to get from A to B. And, yes, I have charts on the walls. So, it's Bristol Board City when I'm planning. So.
Command Central. Love it. Suzanne.
I do some research, and I do have a lot of anticipation in traveling of where I'm going. But my travel sort of planning ideas it's all gone out the window because I've planned so many sort of like possible trips in the last little while that I've had to cancel. That actually your meditation, I was thinking just coming on to this, was I spend most of my time just trying to be grounded right now and not go to one extreme or the other of anything, and try and stay in the middle and just live in the absolute now. Because my husband and I have applied for an appointment to get permanent residency at the consulate here in Mexico, and we're waiting for an appointment to go in and present our documentation. And as things are in Mexico, they are the same in Canada, and the Mexican consular is that you know you're applying at the right time, but you don't hear back. And so I can't go forward and I can't go back. I have to just every day, if there's an appointment that comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And you have to live in that acceptance of what my reality is today, because my future is hinged on so many dominoes falling. So I think that in terms of travel, our plan was always to have our home in Mexico as our jumping off point and not have any physical property that we owned here in Canada. But for the next little while, until everything settles down, is to come back to maintain our healthcare here and live in Ontario. And we can live anywhere in Ontario. So even leaving that open, as long as we live 5 months in Ontario, we can maintain our health plan. So we can live up north, we can live anywhere. So nothing, nothing is set in stone, and everything evolves as life is evolving. And so my travel plan is just to be open and flexible and accepting as to where I am right now, and finding whatever joy and gratitude I can find in every single day. And that's about it.
That's a beautiful attitude. It's exactly what you have to do when you have things that are beyond your control. There's not much you can, the more you fight it, the more angst you'll have.
Yeah, exactly.
Donna, what do you love most about the planning process?
Well, like many others, I enjoyed the anticipation of the trip. And I also look at, I do a lot of research and speak or ask a lot of questions in forums, for instance, like TripAdvisor exam, looking for different answers to, yes, I'm back from Alberta. Yes, it was amazing. Yeah, so I find that's really, that helps me sort of solidify any questions that I have by asking other people about their experiences. So that does help me. I find that if I'm traveling with others, you know, I'm the travel planner of my group. And so I find that I actually send out a survey before we go at the very beginning. So using SurveyMonkey, I ask them questions about what do they want to do? What do they, you know, what are the different activities they like to incorporate into the trip, etc. What is, you know, what are you feeling? Do you want like spa time? Do you want beach time? Do you want adventure time? You know, that kind of thing. And I try and build the trip around the answers to those questions. I also look at my own trip. So for instance, for Alberta, I'm not going to say I'm a foodie, but I do appreciate good food. So one of the questions I ask myself when I go on a trip are, what do I want to see? What do I want to feel? What do I want to hear? What do I want to taste? And I try and incorporate all of those senses into my trip. And I end up with this really well-balanced trip that, and I also like to build in some rest time. So it's not go, 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 go. I like to, so anyways, that's sort of my theory around travel planning, is just incorporating all those senses into my trip. And I always have a great time as a result of it.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. I love that, Donna. Uta, welcome back. What do you love about the travel planning process?
Well, first of all, it's the research as well, but then actually getting stuff organized, starting with booking the flights, and then, as Christine nicely put it, connecting the dots. So that once I'm on location, I'm just filling the structure I already created before, more or less. So, and as I'm heading off for my very first trip in end of August, it's going to be the first flight for longer than, well, my last flight I think was more than a year ago. So it's really exciting. Berlin has a new airport by now. It feels a bit strange because the normal routines don't apply anymore. So it's going to be a completely new adventure. And I must say, it feels a bit strange.
And it does.
Yeah, we'll see about it.
Thank you. It's amazing to see how some of us sort of treat travel planning from the emotional perspective, like asking what we want to see, feel, hear, and all of that. And some of us are like generals planning warfare. Sandra, how about you?
That reminds me of Mark Twain's saying, which is, nothing is stranger than other people's habits.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm one of those planners, but I love the way, as Uta said, I'm just planning a skeleton, and when I get there, that's when it fleshes out. But I love learning the history of the country, the culture of the country. So I'm absorbing the country before I get there. And I certainly make a list of what foods I want to try there that I've never had before. And I've also mentioned that I always try and call people who live there, because I like to stay with people who live there. And they give me a whole other aspect of things I never knew about or knew existed. And it's always fun meeting someone in that country and seeing how they live, what do their houses look like and their supermarkets. So all that is part of the planning. So I'm getting the sense of the place, and I'm learning. Now, before I was like many of you in that I was planning out my days and structuring it. I didn't want to waste time when I was there. I don't want to sit in an office for somebody to tell me what I could do that day when I could be doing that. So that was part of it. But the COVID me is actually learning how to be in the moment and just see what happens. And that's a big shock to the planner, organized person, that I never had the pleasure of time. And I think that's what I've learned this year, that I could just take time and be. And that is like sort of a miraculous feeling, that I don't have to be here, do that. And I could skip things. It's just a wonderful feeling, and I'm really enjoying it.
Amazing. I love that. Thank you, Sandra. Joy.
Yeah, good morning. Sorry I was late. Well, I didn't sleep last night, so then I couldn't get in. But anyway, I'm sitting outside now and thinking about what your question. I'm sorry I missed your meditation, so I didn't have any meditation this morning, but it's just as well I might have gone right off back to sleep. Slept on the Chesterfield last night with the doors open, and it's not working. Anyway,
I'm sure Amanda would do, meditations on demand if anyone needs one. We can just do voice recordings and send them around.
No, don't do one right now because I'm forcing my eyes open. Okay. Yeah, I like to plan as many details as possible, and but I always leave in my itinerary days when I can do exactly what I want, and as somebody said, just living in the moment and figuring out what I'm going to do that day, but totally on my own, and see what comes up. But I like to have most of the details planned. I really like to know I'm going to have, a comfortable place to sleep. That's the main thing for me. And yeah, somebody to take me to the airport and pick me up afterwards, so that I don't have to worry about driving when I'm sleep deprived on the way back. But yeah, I like to get most of the details done. And I think it's exciting when you're thinking about the destination and wondering exactly what's there that's going to, appeal to you as a person. So yeah, it's just figuring out all the details ahead of time. I find that exciting. But it's also exciting when you first put your foot on, on the other country, and you're there and you think, oh, now the adventure begins. So that's a wonderful feeling when you actually get there. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, I'm not very bright this morning, so.
Hey, you're plenty bright, Joy. Don't worry about it.
Really?
Mary. Mary, how about you?
Well, this question made me realize that my current way that I plan is so much different than I planned perhaps 5 to 10 years ago, because my travel now is more so just to remove myself from my day-to-day situation and be somewhere where I can rest and relax, and it can be anywhere. So my previous travel planning would be much like a lot of you have said, the research, but I would specifically find either where I could get a massage, where I could get acupuncture, if there was some kind of flea markets or thrift shops in that area. I always like to kind of visit those because that tells me a lot about the community. I also enjoyed candles and things that are made locally. And so I would try to research where I could buy those. But now, I just, once I get my flight and my accommodations, I just go. And it's an organic kind of a trip because I'm in such a different state of mind now with travel. And this has happened probably over the past 2 or 3 years. So it was even pre-COVID that it didn't matter where I was. Once I was somewhere and it was safe, usually either by some water or in nature, it didn't matter what I did. I would, kind of plan each day as it came. So that's how I do my planning now.
It's amazing when you can make a shift and become a different kind of traveler and appreciate the benefits of both ways of planning it. Pam, how about you?
Pretty much I've done all my research. I have thousands of articles on my computer. And back when it was paper information, I have a 4-drawer file cabinet stuffed with things on different places that I want to go. So it's pretty much just deciding where I want to go, then pulling out what I've already done and condensing it. And the first thing I reach for is a map to start putting sticky dots of different colors all over the map. And I get way down that rabbit hole. And eventually it dawns on me that I need to book a flight. And then I go from there. And I have a list of all the things that I want to see or do, it doesn't mean that I have planned them in advance, because I have to just wait and see how my body is doing. Right now, I'm not able to walk. So doing a trek across somewhere is just not going to cut it, but I can do other things. So I just go with my list. I went all the way to Bangkok, and the only thing I really wanted to do was go see this building. There was a circle that had a dragon. I'm motioning and you can't see me, spiraling all the way to the top of an 8-story building. And that's the only thing I didn't do when I was there. So, I've done my research. Then I just get to pick and choose.
I love it. Thank you, Pam. Maria, how about you?
Okay, so when I was a little girl, our vacations were camping, and I had an uncle who taught us very early on in the process. The vacation starts with the planning and with the packing. And those are the things that, as kids, we didn't want to really do, but he made it fun. So I kind of taken that approach. I will have a rise in my anticipatory anxiety before I book something, but once I book, then I'm on a roll. So some of the things I do, I'm a list maker. I love making lists. Not only do I love making my own lists, I love researching other people's philosophies about lists and what to take and what you don't need and what kind of questions to ask yourself, like, will I use this more than once? And if the answer is no, then it stays. But I will have lists of not only what to bring, but also what side excursions I'm interested in taking, where I can get gluten-free food, what classes may be in the area, and or a yoga studio nearby. I mean, those would kind of be like essential things that I'd be looking for. And at some point, because now the trip I'm hoping to take in February to Spain would be like trying to find like-minded women to meet up, perhaps for a dinner or for a class or for a day trip or something like that.
Post it on your JourneyWoman group and you'll find some people, I bet.
I will.
Use our forum.
I plan to.
Connie. Not sure if you're there right now. Okay, I'll come back to you, Randy.
Well, first, I want to say I truly missed this meeting and everyone over. I've been on very few calls this summer, which is good. I mean, good for me, but I actually truly missed everyone and the meeting and the connecting and just the sort of no judgment zone. Because I had an experience with another call that became a judgment zone, and I was like, oh my God. So I just want to say that I really, truly, it was like, I cannot miss this call but today. So it's nice to be here. So everybody has sort of covered a lot of the details. I'm kind of big on infrastructure. So I sort of just make sure that I do have the infrastructure of my trip, how to get there. And I have issues with, I have some disabilities. So, and it's really important for me to be independent. So, I will use like the Google geography, the topography map, because if where I'm thinking is hilly, then I go somewhere else completely. I make sure I can get from point A to point B on my own. And if I can't, then I don't do that. So I make sure from the very beginning, and being on a budget is also important to me. So from the very beginning, I sort of start with trying to figure out my transport, how I'm going to get kind of where I think I want to go. And if I realize that I can't even kind of get to where I think I want to go, then I just shift gears and I just go somewhere else altogether. I mean, I just don't even, it doesn't matter. There's so many places in the world. So I'm really flexible. And although by the time I'm done my research, I definitely have these lists of things I want to do, I definitely take each day as it comes, because it depends on the weather and it depends on what's open. And once I get into a place, I check to see what's actually free. And then I pick all that stuff first. And, I don't even bother to pay unless it's something I really, 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 really want to do. But there's so much stuff that you can find that's free. And I think the part that I love the most is that when I'm doing my research, I definitely seek to connect with people there, even if it's the people that own the Airbnb or whatever, because the more I find people that are actually willing to engage with me before I even get there, like those are the places I want to stay. Those are the people that I seek out, local information from them. And I find that the people that I really, in the end, decide I'm going to stay there is because those people have been very generous with information with me. And it's clear to me that they will really help me out, answer my questions when I'm there, if there's a problem. And so I really do find that that's really kind of a fun thing for me, is trying to figure out how to connect with local people as I'm researching for my trip. And if that means that I have to do some Googling for language, then I will literally do that. I mean, when I went to Japan, I started my emails for looking for a place to stay completely with my really awful Japanese. But it definitely worked for me because the people were so appreciative that I was trying, that then they were like, oh, well, I speak English, so will you communicate with me in English so I can practice? I was like, oh, yeah, sure. I was relieved, because then you risk miscommunication if you're really not on top of the language. And I have an advantage of, speaking Spanish. So when it's a Spanish speaking country, that's super easy, or Italian, or it's not difficult. But anyway, so that's sort of that's it, I guess, really the basic structure of how I go about it.
Thank you, Randy. We missed you too, by the way.
Yeah, thanks.
Connie.
Yes, I'm much like all of these others. I do a lot of pre-planning. I read, I watch movies, I listen to movies or audios in that language. And then I usually am traveling alone, so I have it pretty much set where I want to go so that I'm safe and secure, but I can do everything on my own. But many people don't do all that pre-planning and they just miss out on so much on the trip. I've taken both students and adults on trips, and I give them all these recommendations of reading and so forth. And then they get there and they say, what is this? I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you didn't prepare. So I am always fully prepared. I am pretty much a planner so that I know where I'm going to be every night. I don't have to do that when I get there. I don't like that unknown quality. I know my transportation. So I'm like all of y'all. I do plan ahead, but then I enjoy it so much when I get there and can do everything. Sometimes to the point that I've overdone, but nevertheless, it's so much fun. I see Marilyn Cater on here, and she put something online last night, and my sister and I have already begun to talk about traversing Prince Edward Island. I cannot wait to do that. We both have foot problems right now, but you know, we can't wait to plan that out. And I want to see her blog when she says where we can stay, what we can eat, what we can do. You know, I like that if I can pick somebody else's brain, but I like to be prepared for my trip. And I love being part of this group. Thank you.
Oh, amazing. Well, we're glad you're here. And Marilyn, maybe we'll need to get you to write about your adventure for JourneyWoman so that people can follow along. Karuna, how about you?
Hi, everyone. I'm also glad to be back after a long time. Similar to what most people have stated, the planning, actually, like, I'm fortunate to be able to knock off some of my bucket list items in the last 5-6 years. So, you know, you dream about this place, you know, growing up, and then you're planning it. That part has been so exciting to me because, you know, as I was growing up, it was like, yeah, I want to go there. But then once it's finally happening, to go back and like review or read about or learn about that thing that was just a dream for many, many years, that's been really exciting for me. You know, like just the little details about something that's been a big, you know, just a big part of my life, you know, that, and now I'm getting to, you know, flush out the details. That's pretty exciting. I think also for me, the accommodations, I really enjoy finding, you know, proper accommodations, you know, location and the type of accommodation, depending on, you know, what I want to do at that time. Do I want to be all like ultra luxury, or do I want to, you know, have a, you know, more local experience, depending on where you are, figuring all that out. I kind of enjoy that. And then, yeah, the food and the actual culture, like, you know, when we go here, what are we going to see that's so different than anywhere we've ever seen? Yeah, so just basic things, what everybody has said, the big planning in the beginning and living it when you're there.
Amazing. Thank you, Karuna. So it's very clear that JourneyWomen are planners, and stemming off of something that Donna said, my next question is, in those rare instances where you're not the planner for some reason, maybe you're going to a place where you have to go by tour to get there, or maybe you're, you know, piggybacking onto somebody else's trip, how do you feed your need for planning in some small respect? Let's start with Diana this time.
I can't imagine. Well, I'm not the planner. I really don't know how to answer that. Yes, of course, I've been in situations where someone else has planned everything. I have to just relax and go along with it and say it's not always my, you know, my way or the highway. I'm here with this lovely group and they wanted to go here. And so I'm going to enjoy myself in the moment. It might not have been my choice, but it isn't always my choice. That's all I can say. And by the way, this isn't my nightgown. I know I'm looking at it and
It doesn't look
but
like
it's what I throw on when I first get up.
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Right, who cares? Yeah. So, yeah.
And so what I mean by that is, like, say you're going on a safari, most of the details are going to be taken care of by the outfit that's planning the safari. So in a case like in a trip like that, how would you like feed some of your need for planning?
Well, I would still, you know, like I am going on an African safari and I've already kind of looked at the places that we're staying and, you know, is it near a little town and are there local vendors and there's free time. There's always free time, even in a planned trip. So I will start to think about what I want to do with that unscheduled time.
Beautiful, thank you. Diane, how about you?
Whether or not someone else has planned it or if it's I've not been on very many organized tours, but the few that I've been on, no matter what, I still research it. I still want to know where I'm going. I still want some sense of what it is I'm going to be doing, and whether or not I'm going to be comfortable with all of it, and whether or not I'm going to have some free time, because I need to build in free time to do what I want to do sometimes. So what I've done, and I'll always research that stuff and get a sense for. First of all, I won't necessarily go on a trip or a tour if I'm not crazy about what's actually been planned. I'm assuming I'm going to have some idea. But when I have the few that I've been on, I've gone along with most of it, but a few times when I said, I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to do something else this afternoon. As long as I knew that I would make arrangements with the tour leader or whatever, saying, would you mind if I went off and did this and I'll come back and meet you guys later to do something else? I've done that a few times. Just because I was in the mood to see something else that we weren't going to be doing or experience something else that we weren't going to be doing that I felt I wanted to do while I was there. And only because, one, sometimes just because I want to be on my own, but also because I've researched it beforehand and I know that we're not going to get to do that and I want to do it. So I plan no matter what, even when I'm going with somebody else.
Amazing.
That's the answer to the question, sorry.
Jane, how about you?
Well, I will use that free time on a tour. But one of the other reasons is because sometimes you just need to be alone.
Yeah.
You just need to get away from those people, no matter how much you like them. Even if you're just traveling with your best friend, I've often said, okay, let's divide this afternoon and we'll meet at 5:30 for our drinks or whatever, because you really need to have that time to breathe on your own and not be inundated by other people. So that personal time is valuable to me.
Amazing. Thank you, Jane. Christine, how about you?
I think like what everyone's saying, I very rarely do a tour. And answering your question, Carolyn, I wouldn't do one now because I think sometimes they're more unsafe than if you're on your own. But I like to have the power of no. So yes, I don't want to do this activity or, you know, I don't want to go to the museum with the 30 other people. So I'm going to go this way. And I think as long as you have a tour with the flexibility to do that, you know, it's really great. Sometimes it's a great benefit to have everything kind of laid out and planned, and it makes getting from A to B a lot easier if somebody's taking care of it and they're aware of, you know, mudslides or, you know, whatever might interfere. But most times, long as there's, free time. And I'm still planning where I'm going to be because I've researched every little place we've gone, because if I don't want to go and do A, then I know I've got a backup to go and do B. Well,
absolutely. Thank you, Christine. Karuna, how about you?
Yeah, that happened pretty recently. Recently, like 5-6 years ago. Somebody else did all the planning and wasn't open to anything that I was suggesting. So I went with it. My sister-in-law, so I really couldn't say much. but we went with it with an open mind. And some of the things were good, and we were happy to have let her take the lead. And some of the things were like, we still talk about it. Like, why didn't we speak up when we should have and been more, aggressive about the fact that we don't want to do this, we didn't enjoy it. So dealing with that was I don't know how to deal with that. I guess, what's the question? Sorry.
When you're not a planner, how do you feed your need for planning something, some aspect of the trip?
So what we did was we broke off and flew out of there and resumed by ourselves. That was the only thing we knew to do at that point, because we weren't enjoying what was planned for us. And so we took it into our own hands and went that way.
It's funny because we've been talking for a long time about an article on choosing the right travel partner, and it's clear that one's needed. She's always talking about when is our next trip and all, and we're like, I don't think I can make it that time, Thank you, Corinne. Connie, how about you? Maybe she's busy. Randy, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm very independent traveler as well. But when I have taken cruise with family, or when I went to Morocco, I kind of had pieces of it that was part of tours. But when I buy into that, I would never buy into anything that's like lots of people or go. I don't like the go like real fast type of deal. I would never buy into that at all. So I guess I only research, if I'm doing that, I only research to kind of make sure that it's actually what I would want to do or don't mind doing, and at a pace that I'm comfortable with and that I have an out. And then I just go with the flow, because what am I paying for if I'm not going to go with the flow? What's the point? Or with my family, it's like, oh, I don't need to let them make the plan. I'll just go along. And the one person that I've traveled most with my whole life has been as the last 20 some years as a parent, has been my daughter. And I actually really, and now that she's an adult, I really, even when she was little, I would really put it in her hands to do some planning. And as she got older, she got much better at it. And now, we did take a trip, a month or two ago, and it was basically what she wanted. I just basically paid the bill. So, I'm happy if I'm with someone I want to be with, or people I want to be with. They want to do the planning, I'm happy to just go along, because most of the other time I really am by myself and I really am doing all the planning. So I can let go. I'm sorry, that's my allergies are just that's it.
Thank you, Randy. Joy.
I don't do too many group tours, but I've taken a couple in the past few years because of my interest in the knitting industry. And when I took them, I was very involved. So going to Italy to see how the yarn's made and, to visit all the factories was great. But the tour operators wanted every single minute planned, and that didn't work very well for me. So when we got to places like Venice and Florence and Rome, I just said to the tour leader, I don't want to be rude, but I really need to just walk around and get my own feel for the city and see what I want to see and do. And I did that, on that particular trip in Italy. And everywhere we went, I just excused myself from the crowd, because I don't really like stopping and starting and, watching people pick postcards out. And I get very bored with that. I like to keep moving and do what I want to do. And actually in Venice, it was wonderful because wandering off on my own, I found some wonderful little clothes shops and, you know, found a wonderful Italian knit cardigan, which I still have and wear too. And it's so elegant. And I found, you know, 2 or 3 things like that, just wandering off on my own and, you know, down little alleyways and it was lovely. I didn't get lost because I had a pretty good sense of direction and, you know, kind of put landmarks in my mind and, you know, met the group back for a meal. But I did that a lot, and I'm very happy to have that time on my own when I'm with a group. So I've done, you know, like I said, I've done a couple of group tours, but they've all been around knitting, and the other one was a river cruise. So you know, along the Danube at Christmas. And yeah, I went and visited all of the knitting things, but I also, when they were doing their little walkabouts, you know, with a tour leader, I opted out of that and walked about on my own and saw, you know, and saw all the cathedrals and all the beauty spots on my own without having to listen to dialogue all the time. I can make my own dialogue and see what I'm seeing without somebody telling me what I'm looking at. I don't like that. I get very bored with that. So that's probably why I like being on my own. But yeah, if I'm on a tour, then I just find a way to slope off and do my own thing and enjoy it too.
Amazing. Thank you, Joy. So we are at the top of the hour. If anybody has to hop off, you're welcome to. Sandra?
Before they leave, I wanted to tell somebody for planning something I use that's wonderful. It's a site called Rome to Rio, ROM,
Yes.
the number 2, and then Rio. And it will tell you how to walk, bus, bike, taxi, fly, any way you want to get from A to B in a city or in a country or from country to country. And it
I
will
use that a lot. Yeah.
lead you to the connections that it's explaining. It's wonderful.
And wonderful for
Number 2.
Venice, where there are no roads.
Mary, how about you? Anytime you're not the planner, how do you feed your need to plan some aspect of it?
I'll do the things that are accommodating to me, but I have no problem saying, I'll just see you guys later. I have no fear of missing out at all.
Amazing. Love that, Mary. Pam, how about you?
I haven't gone on a group tour in, I can't remember when. When I did, I would make sure the group was small, like fewer than 10 people. And that made, because usually I had some weird thing I wanted to go see, which intrigued everybody else. And I worked with a tour manager and said, I'm going to take off and I'm going to go do this. The other people would hear and said, let's all go. And it's like, I can't get rid of you. And now when I'm going to go to Antarctica. So that's pretty well planned out because you're trapped on a ship. But getting there, it's like, okay, I want to go to Iguazu. Is there enough time to go over to Paraguay and fly over the Nazca Plains? And nothing to do in Ushuaia. So I just, I add beginnings and ends. So I get that out of my system. I know exactly where I'm going to go with a group. And I find my weird little oddities that I do manage to get in.
It's the way to do it. Maria.
I'm usually the planner. There's a friend that when we are traveling together, let her plan because she'll involve me in every decision, but she'll do the research. She has a little bit more time than me. When my husband and I went to Tanzania in 2018, he wasn't well for a lot of the trip, but we were very involved in what we were going to do. It was a private tour. So a private tour means we get to do whatever we want. And on one of the mornings, we left one lodge at like 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. We didn't have time for breakfast. And then we took one of those little bush planes to another part of the Serengeti. And my husband wasn't feeling well. I was starving. And they took us from the plane into a safari vehicle and said, we're going to safari all day. I'm like, wait a minute. we haven't eaten. My husband needs to lie down. We want to go back to the lodge and they or to the lodge, the camp. And they're like, no, we can't do that. That's not how this is. And you need to be part of this. And I said, no, we have to go. And after a few phone calls that he made back, we went there and they had a beautiful breakfast laid out for us. We were the only ones there and we were able to go and relax. And we had them change their whole safari time for us because they were doing AM and then PM, and they were long days and we didn't want to spend so many long days. So they did a shorter day from like 10 to 3 for us. And it worked out beautifully with lunch out there with the animals. So, but we had to really advocate, and by we, I mean me, because I'm kind of the mouth. Oh God, this is recorded too, isn't it?
Don't worry. Don't worry. You would get to approve whatever we wrote. Thank you, Maria. Sandra.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, I didn't. Go ahead. I had just one little tip. I thought everyone had spoken, forgive me. On a walking tour, which seemed to be quite prevalent on river tours, I found that rather than just disappearing halfway through a boring walking tour, if I would go up to the guide and give him or her their tip, that they were, they weren't suddenly being abandoned and rejected, and say, thank you so much, this was wonderful, but I must go sit down now, or whatever. So if you go with whatever tip you were going to give them anyway, you can leave at any time you want and no one will think badly of you.
Good one. Thank you, Diana. Sandra.
Well, I'm the planner and always enjoyed that part. But as I was saying before, I've actually learned to enjoy giving the reins to someone else and just not thinking and just having the day to enjoy. And I don't have to worry about getting here, there, or what time it is. And so I've actually changing my personality and just going with whatever they decided. And one example of that is I was sent to Hong Kong to write a story about shopping in Hong Kong, as I'm the Montreal Smart Shopper. And the Hong Kong tourism people were taking me to historical places and fishing villages, and there was no place to shop. And then I just wrote the article about why you shouldn't go to shop in Hong Kong. And so sometimes you learn by not planning what you want to do, but letting someone else plan.
Absolutely. Donna, I can see from your face, you cannot imagine that. What's your situation?
I'm the planner, and I honestly, I every time that I'm thinking about going someplace and I want to go with somebody else, I'll say, is anybody interested in sort of taking over the reins of this, and nobody wants it. So I know I do a good job and that's fine, but at the same time, it is nice to be able to hand it over to somebody. So that's where the going on an organized tour sort of fits that for me. I do like to build in a little bit of or optimize that alone time, that solo time that they do build into the tours. And of course, if it doesn't feed what I'm looking for, I will just extend the trip and I'll just go off on my own. So I've actually gone on trips with friends, organized it, and then extended it for an additional week. So I get to do the things I enjoy.
Thank
you. But that's a financial thing too. If you can do it, great. If you can't, totally understand.
Now, I know we haven't quite gotten to everybody, but we are almost 10 minutes over. So I'm going to wrap it up for today. But if you do have any thoughts and you haven't gotten to share them, email me at amanda@journeywoman.com. And I'd be happy to hear anything you have to say. As always, ladies, thank you for spending your Friday morning with us. We've gotten through 2 questions again. So maybe we'll continue this because there's a lot more to talk about in the trip planning process. And obviously this is going to be quite some article by the end of it. I hope you have a beautiful weekend and we'll see you all next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Great seeing everybody.
Bye.
Have a good weekend.